No miracle will take place until that mess is sorted out. Kekobo is the problem. And it doesn't take a genius.
Sorting out the mess is firing the CEO.
Fire Sige, let him go home. If that position must be held by a Kalenjin, the president can bring another one.
Waziri has said it's a start of a new dawn. We've seen you signing a memorandum of understanding between CMOs. What does it mean for artists? What does it mean for you?
So like Waziri has said, it's a new dawn. It's a new dawn of engagement, collaboration, and support from government and from the stakeholders. The music industry business is an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem that requires different players, from the creators themselves, to the CMOs, which are formed by the creators, to the government, to the users of the music, to collaborate to ensure that we respect copyright. Intellectual property is the business of now and the future. Some of the richest people in the world today, they're musicians. They're musicians. You saw Jay-Z and his wife bought one of the best houses, I think the second most expensive house in the world, because they have money. They don't complain about CMOs there because the ecosystem works. There has been a fallacy sold every year in, year out, that the failure for musicians to make money is because of CMOs. It is not. It's an ecosystem. CMOs cannot serve in an environment where there is piracy. The work of fighting piracy is the work of the government. CMOs cannot operate optimally in an environment where there is no proper legal framework. CMOs cannot operate properly in an environment where there is infringement of copyright on all platforms. In order for them to make the money and to benefit from the sweat of their brow, it becomes necessary for the ecosystem to work together. So picking one person and blaming them doesn't work. And that's why I'm saying today is the happiest day in my life, because I always like results. I'm known. I'm a legacy person. I led Kekobo itself from the scratch, built it for 7 years, and rated by independent evaluators who are evaluating the directors as the best for 3 years in a row. I headed the audit committee, communications and legal, and I was in Kenya Film Classification Board. I raised it from an annual budget of 88 million to 600 million when I left, and build infrastructure and networks, capacities among the staff. You can go to KFCB and see there was a CEO there. So I didn't want to come here and fail, because I came here and found disoriented, disorganized, disconnected system. And yet for us to be able to make business and put money in the pockets of musicians, the ecosystem has to work together. That's why I'm saying for Waziri to bring the parties together and say that as government, because you can't work without the government. You can't succeed in business in a place unless you're doing black market stuff without government. So for the minister himself to call us together and pledge is unequivocal support to the CMOs, and to plead that we open a new chapter, and to invite us to State House to witness the launch of Talanda Ella, and to be able to work together as an ecosystem for the benefit of musicians. This is the happiest day. We have always sung the song, Tutaweka Pesa Mfukoni kwa Wasanii. When I was appointed last year around this time, I pledged that I would make Kenyan musicians billionaires. It couldn't work without what Waziri has done. And Waziri himself, when he was appointed, he called me on a Sunday morning and told me, my brother, be the champion of this so that we redeem and save our musicians from the oppression and from the suffering they have gone through. Now today we have begun the journey to ensure that our musicians are celebrated, our musicians make money, our musicians become rich. They don't just entertain us, they also live a good life that will inspire our young kids also to want to become musicians, because the musicians of now are living better. So this is really great news, and we want to thank Waziri for it.
Do you think with the new signing everything is going to change? Or how assured will the musicians be that like what happened, they were receiving very less money from the previous time?
Yes.
Which assurity are you giving musicians that this is going to really change their lives and all?
The MOU is not just a piece of paper. It is a culmination of discussions that we have had for the last 6 months. I was the first person, first CEO to visit Waziri the day he reported to this place. He left this boardroom for a press conference and we went to his office. And I stayed there until 9 in the evening. I meant business. And the same issues that we are raising about collaboration is what he has been working on to ensure that we set up a proper legal framework, to ensure that the licenses are given on time and there's enforcement, and we Waziri Gazette the right tariffs, which he has done already. That goodwill is what we are going to ride on, because an MOU would be a piece of paper without the goodwill. And you saw today we came not just as CEOs, we came with our chairman, we came with the boards to give support and life to the conversation that we have had today and the MOUs that we have signed. The MOU is just a framework to guide our relationship and our operations, but a commitment of intent that we really want to ensure that our musicians do not continue to suffer. We don't want to do fundraisers anymore for our musicians. We want them to have a medical cover. We want them to have a circle where they can save money. We are going to create awareness about financial literacy, ensure that our musicians are able, when they get a boom, to make money from that boom. As you know, music operates in seasons. You produce your kibao right now, it is hitting, it is playing everywhere, but after 3 months, it's no longer the same. And this is what has been impoverishing our musicians. That somebody like the guy who sang Vida comes up with a song, it is all over, but we are not collecting because we have no license. We are not collecting because the government is not supporting us. We are not collecting because we have no enforcement. So that music fades because it's seasonal. Music comes like a boom. It's like harvesting. The maize you plant in the shamba. If you harvest, and then for 3-5 years nobody is buying, you have no capacity, there is no market, what happens? The maize will rot. It's the same way with the music, it's seasonal. So when you produce Vida, or you produce a song now, an album, if it hits and it is selling in all channels and all platforms, this is the time CMOs will reap, because they'll collect royalties for you. Because we collect from the use of copyrighted musical works. We don't collect just automatically. And therefore, we need to, every time someone is producing a song, to find a conducive environment. And last, of course, this brings me to what I was saying about Kekobo. That Kekobo's role, or the government role, is facilitative, not impediment. They are supposed to provide a conducive environment for musicians to thrive, for CMOs to thrive. Because the business of music is really managed at this level by the CMOs. And we exist on behalf of musicians. The work of the government is not to micromanage CMOs. It's to fight piracy. It's to ensure there is the right legal framework, and to ensure that the tariffs are right. Can you imagine the condemned Kekobo has on musicians, because they lowered in 2019, they lowered the tariffs by 90%. 90%. Tell me which other commodity, if you say music is business, how can you treat musicians with that contempt, that you lower tariffs by 90%? The hotel that closed here called Intercontinental, they used to pay 1.2 million. One time they were sent an invoice by MCSK of 100, and they themselves send it back to say, please correct the error. We normally pay $1 million. Only to be told, well, it is based on tariffs gazetted by the government, and they have been lowered by 90%. So how do you say the government loves musicians when it's doing that kind of thing? That's why I'm so happy with Waziri. When I raised it yesterday, immediately while we were in the meeting, called the Attorney General and sent the new tariffs, which will increase the collections by 60%. So this is a minister who means business. The other guys were deep state. This guy is a part of the deep state. He was just running rackets and cartels for personal gain. That's why the Copyright Act has been amended 12 times in a record in 3 years. Record 12 times. Because you meet somebody in the street, they are doing business, they want to exploit musicians, you sneak some amendment, it goes through. You even get another group, they tell you, register as CMO. There was one called Mpake, which was registered for 2 years. MCSK was denied a license. They were registered. They collected over 100 million and disappeared with it, and then we were brought back. Look at the behavior that I was raising here. You give us a license in May, you backdate it to January, and you want us to pay you 1 million shillings for 6 months. In 2020, we paid 5.4 million, and were denied the license, and the money was not refunded. Impunity, reckless impunity.
Bwana CEO, you've been shooting from the hip, and during the presentation we've seen you pointed out clearly that the issue at Kekobo is a management issue.
It's a management issue, really, and it gives the government a bad name. Honestly, that's why I was telling Waziri, you will keep being lied to, misled, misinformed, and you will not perform, because the minister needs competent, intelligent people who give the minister a good name. We're working well with stakeholders. If there's a problem, you come and resolve it. You don't do things like that. And I've asked a simple question. You give us a license 3 weeks ago, date it May 5th, then you backdate it to January so that it expires in December. And you're asking us to pay. We are paying money for from musicians. Why would you allow that? So yeah, Waziri has promised me that you deal with it, but I can tell you, it doesn't matter what method is used. Until Kekobo is sorted out, they will continue to give the government a bad name. They will continue to exploit copyright, and copyright holders will continue to suffer. No miracle will take place until that mess is sorted out. Kekobo is the problem. And it doesn't take a genius.
Sorting out the mess is firing the CEO.
Fire Sigay, let him go home. If that position must be held by a Kalenjin, the president can bring another one. I mean, it doesn't have, we cannot run a country this way. I'm not speaking on my own behalf. I am not a musician, for God's sake. I'm a CEO, I've gone to school, I can teach at the university. I'm talking about the musicians who have employed me to represent them. And I'm saying we have a very good minister, extremely brilliant minister who knows what he's doing. But you need CEOs of state parastatals around you who give you the correct information and work well with the stakeholders. A guy who has been used and musicians are complaining about him all the time. Why do you then think, you think we are crazy? I worked at Kekobo for 7 years and there was no complaint then. So how do I become stupid or malicious just because I've joined the MCSK? How can you be accusing CMOs that the same guy who turned around KFCB, who turned around Directorate of Information, who turned around Kenya Union of Journalists, is the same guy, more educated, more experienced? How can you tell me it is me who is wrong? So what is it that is so special with that guy? There are so many Kenyans who can do that job. Today we have seen here, we came here, discussed that document, and agreed his Waziri will witness. We send it back that way. We have seen him here. That's why people are walking out. Now he comes in to do, I don't know, it borders either on insanity or witchcraft.
It's part of the cartels.
This guy was part of the deep state. He works with Jomo Shero to run amok on the CMOs for 5 years. And he was the blue-eyed boy. Kekobo has been the impediment. The senior manager, director actually, of Nation Media Group was appointed political correctness, Mutuma Matthew, to be the chairman of Kekobo. He is a user of music. He has our invoice and he's not paying. And then you make him conflict of interest. What are you telling me? There's a problem with Kekobo. Sort it out, Waziri. Mr. President, sort this mess out. Sigay can work elsewhere. It doesn't have to belong here. But if you are complaining that there was a deep state that messed up the country, it also messed up the music industry, and the main champion of the cartels, deep state, and the systems is one end to Sigay. He can take me to court if he thinks it's libelous, because we have all the evidence.
Just to end it, Bwana CEO, tomorrow I know you're going to be at State House.
Yes.
Probably, have you had a chance to meet the president, just to share a word with him about...
Check my Facebook, but the president is a personal friend. Yeah, I campaigned for him. I am his friend. I opened the chapel in Karen. I mean, we have come a long way. Check, I mean, from when I was Director of Information, even before, we've been friends for a long time, because I was also a student leader in Kenyatta University when he was also in YK 92. I'm not saying I was part of YK 92, but they were engaged with student leaders, and that's the time when I met him. Eloquent, dynamic, and no wonder. He gives me inspiration that actually I can also become a president.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Asante sana.